Now I've decided to continue working on the front end. The last thing to put in place is the bonnet, and this piece here is the I'll call it a chrome strip, although I don't think it is, strip in the middle of the bonnet. Now I'm pretty sure this is stainless, so I should be able to polish it up. But first of all, I need to get all this grunge off, so I'll just do that with a bit of aluminium and polish, sheet aluminium that is. Got a few blemishes in the surface. I'm not sure whether they're pits. They don't feel like pits, but I just need to spend a lot more time with a piece of aluminium here, rubbing this back, just removing the grunge. So I'll just stop the video and I'll continue this until I've got it as good as I can get it, just with this aluminium. Okay, now I've been working on this with the bits of aluminium foil and polish. It's cleaned it up reasonably well. I'm not worried about these surfaces in here. These ones, they're actually hidden. It's the top surface is the main concern. There's a few pits, a couple of scratches. I guess I could put it on like that, but what I'll do is that I'll buff this up on my grinder. Now I have buffed up stainless steel before and mainly very thin strips of stainless, and I've been able to achieve a mirror finish, but that takes an incredibly long time on the buffer. I don't know whether I'll do that with this. To do that before I've actually had to go back to a heavy buffing compound and then gradually work up. But I might just try a light polish and see if it cleans up. If it does, I'll be happy with that. I mean, as I say, it's not perfect, but and we're talking a car of over 70 years old. It will be the original piece, so I'd like to put it on. So I could put it on like that. It's probably quite presentable, unless you get right up close. Where I am here with my glasses on, I can see some marks in it, but I'll see if I can polish it up better than that. So I'll just set up the grinder with the buffing wheel. I'll video the start of it, but as I say, it can take an incredibly long time. I remember buffing a piece like this took me over an hour, so I'm certainly not going to video that, but I'll show the start and how it progresses. Now when you've sent away some stainless for polishing, don't be surprised if you get quoted a significant sum of money to actually do it. As I've said, it's a long process. I mean, I'm going to start with a fine buff. Now normally you would go back to a coarse buff and work your way up. As I've said, it takes an incredibly long time. The other thing too is that you need to be very careful when you do it. This thing spins at a rapid rate. Very easy to get something caught and then this piece flies across the garage floor. Now the best you could hope for is it misses you and just hits and crumbles somewhere else, but you know, it can hit you in the face or anything. So you need to be very careful when you're doing it. Anyway, I'll just start the process. As I say, this is a fine polish I'll try and just see how it comes up. I'll just do it on one end and see if I can see the difference. So I'll just start this up. As I say, I won't leave it on too long because I need the room to manoeuvre around. So I'll just turn the machine on. Be able to see this, if I can get the light on it right. The surface has come up much better. As I say, I don't know whether you can see it. I can certainly see the difference, you know, between here and here. It's got very close to a mirror finish, bearing in mind there are some small scratches in there and little pits, but I'm not worried about that. I mean, if I wanted to get rid of that, as I say, I'd have to go back to a heavy buff and work my way up. So that's an incredibly long time, which I'm not prepared to do. Not for this anyway. So I think that will be good. I'll now continue and do the rest of it, which will take a lot longer, and I'll come back when I've done the complete job. Okay, the result of the polish, it's come up quite nicely. Not perfect, as I've said before, but certainly a lot better than it was, and it's good enough to go back on the car when I've finished doing the bonnet halves. So I'm quite pleased with the result of that. So I don't know whether you can see it, but I mean, I can see my face in it, so it's a mirror with a couple of scratches. I could spend a lot more time, as I've said. If I'd gone back to a coarser buff, I could probably get the minor scratches out, but I think this is good enough. This is the last part of the car I need to rub back. This is one half of the bonnet, so I need to flat this paint, so it's not a bad surface to cut back. A little bit of a problem on the curved sections here and on the edges, but I should be able to do that without too much difficulty. I say both halves have got to be done. Now I've already polished up the centre section, so that will go across in the centre when it's installed. So it should look quite nice against the black, and you know, it came up quite well. A few imperfections, but nothing major. So I'll just start the process. I won't film this. I've got plenty of film of me sitting here rubbing these panels back. So it'll take a while, quite a few hours, but hopefully it'll come up fine. I've finally finished the passenger side of the bonnet. It's taken me a bit over 11 hours. Now I've done it all by hand. I probably should have done it by machine, at least the final cut, but I still prefer doing it by hand. It's a lot longer, but I have a lot more control. So that's half the bonnet done. I'll rest for a couple of days before I start again, so it'll at least be another 11 hours to cut and polish the other side, but at least one side's done, and I'm getting closer to getting all of the panels, all of the paint on the panels finalised. When I say finalised, at least cut initially. I probably will go over once the car is fully assembled and do a fine polish, but at this stage I'll leave it at this. As I think I've said before, it's no good doing the final polish, particularly when you're trying to fit things and like to just scratch them and certainly get grubby marks all over them. So I'll just put this on the car out of the way and then get the other one out and start the process again. I've finished the initial buff of the driver's side of the bonnet. Same amount of time as the other one. Time is start again. I finished the right hand side of the bonnet. It took about the same time as the other side to finish. It's a long process, but it's worth it in the end. Now what I've got to do, apart from join the two halves, which I will do shortly, I've actually got to address a few problems over here. Now, when I fitted the passenger side, it fitted in, but there was very little clearance between the rear bulkhead and the edge of the chrome radiator surround. So I've actually got to push this out a little bit further, so I'll do that next. Then I've got to put some bump stops in. I've started those. There's a dozen of those to put in, so a few things to do yet. The lacing, bonnet lacing, I've got to do that on the rear. It's got to be riveted on, so that may take a little bit of time. And this piece in the back, I didn't get that re-chromed. It's Mazak. I've got one that's reasonable, but problem with Mazak, over time it corrodes, so I'll see what I can do with that. Anyway, I've got to address that, and then I'll put these bonnet halves on. So not finished yet, and once I get them on, then I've got to do the bonnet catches. I've got the cables are in, but I've just got to find the catches. I've got those somewhere in the garage here, and then make sure they're positioned properly, and don't get a situation where I've got them locked down and then can't unlock them. So anyway, so there's a few things to do, and it's all related to the bonnet. All the webbing has now been put in. Bump stops, got all those in. I've just dropped the driver's side bonnet half on. That actually fits. It's this side, the passenger side, that's just a bit tight. It needs opening up, and it probably needs opening about 4 mil. That push forward. Now, what I've found is that this mount on this side has been pushed in, and that's meant to be straight. It's been pushed in there, which means this piece here has come back. Now when I've positioned the tie rod in here, I've made it the same length as the other side, but the other side is about 5 mil further forward, so I've got to straighten that up and then undo a few bolts up the front here and push this side forward a bit. It's so I can see what the problem is. It's just going to take a little bit of time, a few more bolts to undo that I've got to do through the wheel arch, and just So just push that forward just a little bit. So it's getting closer. The centerpiece there, that cleaned up good enough to put on the car. And as soon as I get this positioned right, I'll be able to put the bonnet on. I still haven't found the catches yet, but I'll search around for those.